This is a yellow box junction in Kingston, southwest London. In the UK, it's designed to keep traffic flowing smoothly and safely. It sounds simple, but this little yellow box might just be one of the biggest money-making traps ever. In the last 8 months alone, it's made £500,000 in fines, and it's the government who's lining its pockets. The point of any road marking or traffic law on the road is on its face pretty straightforward.
You should know that you can't drive onto a box junction if you're not able to go straight through.
Keep traffic moving as quickly and safely as possible. Cars slowing down means traffic jams. Traffic jams can lead to accidents. Accidents lead to headaches for everyone. It's in everyone's interest to make sure cars on the road can move along smoothly and that we all get to our destinations in one piece. That's why we have traffic lights. White lines telling us when we can and can't overtake. Cycle lanes, stop signs, priority to the right, speed limits, and all that fun stuff. To get people to abide by the rules of the road, the government will slap you with a fine if you break any of these rules. Maybe even a license ban if the offense is bad enough. These laws and markings keeps us safe and stop the traffic jams. At least that is what the government says. In the UK, some people just wonder if all these rules and regulations are actually there to trip us up and make a quick buck from fines. Nearly everyone who believes in that theory points to the one road marking in particular to make the case, the yellow box. A lot of you watching have probably never seen one of these. If you go to London, you'll find them scattered all over the city on busy junctions. But how do they work?
That is a basic question, but it's a yellow hatched marking which is normally found at a junction, or it can also be outside a police, fire or ambulance station. You must not enter the box until your exit road or lane is clear. So at this point here, a lot of people might say, well, what is the purpose of it? And that's when it gets a bit controversial, to be honest with you, because there is no formally stated purpose in government guidance or legislation.
The idea behind this is that Londoners found that cars at junctions would end up blocking one way of the traffic while waiting for enough space to cut across and leave. This would end up causing traffic snakes, which would cause more build-ups, more wait, and more trouble for everyone involved. If the government catches you stopping in one of these yellow boxes, they hit you with a nasty fine to make sure the lesson is learned. So how possibly this could be an issue? It's a rule of the road like any other, and in theory, it should keep the traffic moving smoothly. Right. The issue isn't in the concept, but it's in the execution. When you start analyzing the boxes themselves, you start seeing some glaring issues. Back in 2024, the RAC commissioned an in-depth study covering their 100 yellow box junctions in London and Cardiff. The chartered engineer leading the study, Sam Wright, runs the Yellow Box Guru website, and is pretty much the go-to expert when it comes to this road marking specifically. Wright's assessment was pretty shocking. Of the 100 boxes analyzed, he found that 98% were larger than they actually needed to be to keep traffic moving properly. We're not talking a few centimeters too wide or long here either. Wright found that some of these boxes were 50% too big.
There's a combination of reasons why boxes are too big. The first level is a general incompetence of engineers in my industry of designing boxes. They don't really think about it. They just think, oh, there's a junction, we need a box. So there you go, let's just go and draw it. So generally, there's no thought and design gone into it. They just don't think about it. Historically, in 2002, those regulations required yellow boxes to touch the corners of a junction. And if they didn't touch the corners, the curb, then they weren't enforceable. What happened then, and myself included because I was designing boxes at that time, we had to design boxes bigger than was needed just to meet the legislation. So a lot of historical boxes are big just because they need to touch the corners of the junction.
Even more damning, he writes in his study that the majority of the junctions he found these boxes in weren't even under traffic light control anyway. So if you replace them with a simple keep clear markings, not all that much would change, except the government being able to slap you with a hefty fine if you make even a smallest of mistakes, of course. That's no exaggeration. Wright lays it out clearly himself, and I quote, "Making sure the yellow boxes are the correct size is extremely important when you consider that even a car bumper overhanging part of a box can result in a driver being fined to the tune of up to £160, depending on where they are in the country. It becomes really obvious just how large these boxes are when we take a look at one from Google Street View. This is Wolverstone, northeast London. These 3 arrows identify where traffic is crossing over from each lane. Obviously, cars can't go at the same time in this area, around where the arrows cross over each other in different directions. Stopping here slows everything down. We want our box to be around it, but on the edges, where the arrows converge and merge into the same direction, this is fine. Cars have to have enough room to let one another pass and move about. Stopping here is not the end of the world. So, this is where a car shouldn't stop. And this is where it's fine if it does. The problem is obvious. The actual yellow box in Wolverstone is covering the area where traffic can stop and is totally safe. And these 2 parts are completely unnecessary. But even if the boxes can be a little harsh, or they are a bit too big, it's not the end of the world, right? And it's not like the government can even make that much money off of them anyway. What's the couple £100 in the grand scheme of things? Let's zoom in on one yellow box in particular, this one. This is Kingston Junction in London. It's become kind of infamous in the UK for catching people out. This one is really nasty because it's a double box junction, one for either side of the road. Just like the one in Wolverstone, the edges of the boxes are just way too big. Can you really be expected not to ever stop in any part of these areas? This overcorrection in Kingston has ended up making the UK government £500,000 in 8 months. And that's just from the fines, from this one junction. Now, imagine even just 100 of those, and you are talking potentially £45 million in fines in less than a year. And that's far from nothing.
They make a lot of money, and the councils are happy to just sit and allow the status quo to be. So I've written to several councils, for example, to say, your box here is too big, it needs to be reduced in size by 50%. And I either get no response or a generic response, just dismissing me, saying, it conforms with the regulations. They're happy to just sit and allow that status quo to exist. I have to say that it is just a cash machine with no evidence, unless they can provide evidence of benefits. At the moment, there's no evidence there's any benefits from enforcement.
Bright isn't the only one in the UK who's pointed out how much of the scam these yellow boxes seem to be. Media outlets across the country have been writing pieces about how much people hate them and how the government is just using them as a quick cash cows to shore up the budget deficit. I even did a quick Google search about that junction in Kingston. And one of the first results that came up was a Reddit post asking if anyone else had gotten fined for stopping in the yellow box. People in the UK have been complaining about the fines so much that if you go on the Transport for London website, where they lay out all the rules to follow in the yellow box, they explicitly state,
"We don't simply issue fines to raise revenue. We enforce the rules to help keep the traffic moving."
So the question is simple. Are they telling the truth? Don't think for a second that the government isn't above finding sneaky ways to get money out of you. Whenever a state is running low on funds, products like alcohol and cigarettes are literally called old reliables. Why? Because they know no matter how high they raise taxes on those products, people are going to buy them anyway. Sure, they might say it's to discourage people from smoking or drinking for a healthier population, but we all know that it's to raise revenues. You can say that you think raising taxes on these vices is perfectly fine, but the point is that the government will use clever ways to mask money making as something that improves public life. That might not be a case with these yellow boxes. It might genuinely just be an overcorrection, but it's something to keep in mind. Okay, you might be thinking that sucks for people who live in London or Cardiff, but I don't live there. I'm safe. Why should I care? Unfortunately, nowhere is safe. Back in 2022, the UK government introduced new legislation that gives local councils all over the country the right to request these yellow boxes in the areas.
I think that was a terrible decision. Reason why? Because we've had so many problems in London and Cardiff with enforcement, and the idea that we wouldn't fix those problems and learn lessons before expanding it was just really terrible. So when I worked with the RAC, we called on the government to introduce guidance on how to design boxes, and that is something that the government should have done before they gave the powers to other English authorities. And that's really why yellow boxes have sort of got into the news more in the last couple of years, the fact that they have expanded outside of London.
The good news is that the solution to this whole problem is really easy. Bright says as much in his videos. Just make the boxes smaller. Nobody's against the idea of the boxes in principle. They're just way too big right now. If the government really cares about road safety first and foremost, when it comes to putting in those yellow boxes, there's no reason to be finding drivers who aren't doing anything fundamentally wrong. You can find a link in the description to a petition to change the law around the yellow boxes. If it passes and the local councils and the government see it, they really shouldn't take issue with making the boxes a little smaller. And if they do, then we know that it's probably a way to raise revenue for the state or the local councils. All in all, if the government and the councils really need the money, they should at least be honest about it.